following is a live presentation of CBC Sports. It hurts too much to touch, let alone be tackled. So once again, battered quarterback Matt Dunnigan is an uncomfortable bystander, burdened by the pressure to prove his worth, but hampered by a litany of injuries. Understudy Sammy Garza gets his second straight start, while coach Urban Bowman buys more time to heal Matt Dunnigan's wounds.
Anytime you sit down a starter, whether it's quarterback or not, you have to feel that the people next to them have got to make some adjustments. So that's the same thing that happens when Sammy comes in or Danny comes in. They have to make some type of an adjustment.
The times I've been in coming in as a backup, I mean, it's just like grab my helmet, go in, throw a couple balls, and you know, let's get going. And you don't have any time to think about it. And then I guess as a starter throughout the week, you're thinking every day about what you're going to do against this team.
Last week in Calgary, it was Jekyll and Hyde football. In the first half, the Bombers packed their vaunted wallop, leaving the Stampeders in disarray and leading the game by halftime. But a Calgary chalk talk produced a whole new second-half complexion. A Blair Zer ambush, a Pee Wee Smith onslaught, and an Andy McVeigh rumble. As these teams did an about-face, Winnipeg circled the wagons for the Calgary Stampeder slaughter. Welcome to breezy and wet Winnipeg for the rematch of this home-and-home series between Calgary and Winnipeg. The Blue Bombers, of course, will be without their starting quarterback, Matt Dunnigan, who is still nursing a slight separation of his left shoulder and is in street clothes on the sidelines here with the Bombers today. Sammy Garza gets the start, a chance for him to match skills with Doug Flutie, a chance for him to make good on the mistakes that he's been studying all week on game film from last year's route. For Doug Flutie, though, the opportunities are even greater. He is quickly closing in on the all-time passing record for a single season for Calgary, and he can put the Stampeders in firm control of first place in the West with a win today. Well, for their thoughts on today's game, let's go up to the broadcast booth to Don and Dan.
Thank you, Mark. Hi, everybody. Dan, you were in Calgary last week. A dramatic turnaround, 46 second-half points for the Stampeders. As a former player, how do you account for the turnaround?
Well, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure this is a 60-minute game right here. When you go in at halftime, it's a game of adjustments. Calgary made adjustments. Maybe, obviously, Winnipeg made adjustments. The big difference was that Calgary executed their adjustments.
Executing they did. 57-29, the final score. Sammy Garza, a surprise starter last week. He has known all week that he was going to start this game. Does that make a difference?
I think it really helps, and I think he'll be a better quarterback this week. He watched the films of last week's game, and he watched his mistakes and how he can improve on that, and I think he has a point to prove that he's a better quarterback than we saw last week.
But having 7 days to think about it, will this affect him mentally?
I don't think so. I think he's going to get pumped up about it. He's going to be excited about it. The main thing is he's got to be composed. He's got to know that he's in control out there.
Garza against Flutie, the two competing quarterbacks this afternoon in the rematch, Calgary and Winnipeg. Mark?
Don, one other game this afternoon, BC leading Ottawa 7-0 in the first quarter. Danny Barris scoring a touchdown for the Lions. And live at the half, we will talk with Dennis Meyer, whose debut as a CFL head coach, a success yesterday. The Argos defeating Saskatchewan 39-32. We'll be back with the kickoff after this.
The Winnipeg Blue Bombers hope to use home field to their advantage to avenge last week's 57-29 drubbing at McMahon Stadium. Urban Bowman, 54 years of age, the rookie head coach of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, taking over because of the health problems of Cal Murphy, who is watching this afternoon, and we say hello to the Bomber general manager and coach. Wally Buono would like to make a change in his previous visits to Winnipeg Stadium as a head coach of the Stampeders. He has never won here. Andy McVeigh takes the opening kickoff, and Andy McVeigh is having trouble finding some room up at the 48-yard line, but pretty good field position for the Stampeders for their first offensive series under Doug Flutie.
And he was brought down by Jason Jakovic.
Last week, Doug Flutie passed for 261 yards against Winnipeg, one of his lowest passing totals of the season.
Great compliment to the Winnipeg defense that played extremely well that first half, held him to only 40 yards in the first half last week in Calgary.
First and 10, and Flutie will try and put it in the air, and he's going deep for Crawford. Knocked away by Rod Hill. Rod Hill, the veteran cornerback, made the adjustment, Dan, just in the nick of time.
Something that we didn't see in the course of all last week's game was a deep pass like that, and Flutie coming out trying to establish himself quite early, going deep to Crawford. Crawford had about 2 steps on Rod Hill to begin with, but Rod Hill showing great speed and being able to catch up. Terrific receiving core, and these are some weapons that Doug Flutie will use all game long.
The Stampeders offensively with the same lineup that took the field last week against Winnipeg and won, as we've mentioned a couple of times, 57-29. Second and 10, Flutie into the flat. Wide open is Sapunjas, and Sapunjas has a big first down to the Winnipeg 36-yard line. Upset there by Rod Hill. That's a 26-yard gain. Sapunjas last year here at Winnipeg Stadium, the outstanding player for Calgary, the outstanding Canadian player in the Grey Cup game, and he received recognition for his efforts. Defensively, this is the way the Winnipeg Blue Bombers line up. They have an outstanding linebacking contingent that put pressure on Flutie last week. They've made a change in their secondary. Jakovic replaces the injured Darrell Sampson. Eric Mitchell, the ball carrier, to the 32-yard line. That will be a pickup of about 3 yards. Tackled by Mike Gray.
Very important also early, you saw Doug Flutie coming out trying to establish that passing game. But for his sake and the Calgary Stampeders is the fact they need to rush the ball against the Winnipeg attack and try to keep them settled in defensively so that they can be so persistent in their blitzing.
Flutie looking at 2nd and 7. Make it 2nd and 6. Pass is incomplete. There was also a penalty flag as Flutie went down in the grasp of Vaughn Booker. It appears to be a holding call against Calgary.
Absolutely. This is one of the things that Winnipeg did. Couldn't quite hear it, but I think we do get the holding against Calgary. In this case, we've had extreme pressure, and early in the part of last week's game, Doug Flutie flew off balance most of the time. Either he was ducking, getting away from the scramble, getting away from the rush, and having to throw the ball off balance.
So with the penalty tacked on, the ball comes back to the 42-yard line. 2nd and 16, Calgary. 12:48 remaining in the opening quarter. Pressure coming up the middle, but a middle screen to Sapunjas is complete to the 32-yard line. But Calgary will still be short of a first down. James West was one of those in the tackle of Sapunjas, and what an outstanding year he is having.
Just a tremendous effort by James West this whole season. Sapunjas is just coming across the middle, just a little setup with the screen. The offensive linemen are releasing downfield. Winnipeg is in a zone defense. They're allowing them to throw the ball underneath and then having those quick, speedy linebackers react up as Randolph did and made a good tackle.
Mark McLaughlin, performing before family and friends here at Winnipeg Stadium this afternoon, will be attempting a 40-yard field goal. He is the CFL scoring leader. And there is a time clock violation being charged against the Calgary Stampeders. The referee today is George Black. So that will move the Stampeders 5 yards further back. I mentioned that Wally Buono has never won at Winnipeg Stadium. In 2 regular season visits here as head coach of the Stampeders, he has lost. And last year, of course, he lost the Grey Cup game to the Toronto Argonauts here at Winnipeg Stadium.
Certainly when you come back to this stadium, there's some bad memories and bad thoughts about meeting the Toronto Argonauts here. And he has a lot of things to prove. Not only that he can overcome this stadium, but overcome right now the Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
So McLaughlin now will be attempting to split the uprights from 45 yards away, and there's another penalty flag, and again the Stampeders took more than 20 seconds in getting the play underway.
Calgary number 9. Third down repeat.
And now it has taken the Stampeders out of field goal range. Wally Buono can't understand why they took so long to snap the ball. He's looking out with a very puzzled look.
He and Steve Taylor having some conversation over there trying to figure out exactly what happened, but 3 very key errors. 2 penalties on time count violations, a holding call, got them out of field position, got them out of a situation where they could have been a very sure 3 points.
So now Tony Martino, who had a big week last week, kicks to James. He fumbles the football, and Calgary claim they've got it. So the new addition to the lineup of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers loses the handle on the first punt of the game. Doug Davies was able to scoop up the Lynn James fumble. Lynn James was added to the Winnipeg roster on Tuesday of this week. He came from the NFL via Cincinnati and Cleveland, where he had a reputation as a punt returner.
Absolutely, a reputation as being a very sure-hand punt returner and receiver, and in that case, he just did not concentrate and look that ball all the way in and was looking downfield quite early.
So the Stampeders get another opportunity, and Doug Flutie is moving people around. He sends 4 receivers wide to the left, throws to the right side, and the pass is complete to Bland for a gain of about 4, maybe 5 yards, with Rod Hill making the tackle. But Flutie, as they moved to the line of scrimmage, was obviously moving people around.
He had 6 receivers in there trying to get Mitchell out of the backfield, getting him mismatched again as he did Sapunjas against Baker earlier. And in this case, that's the Calgary kind of deep offense that he wants to get, is to get the mismatch and then go to it early.
Second down at the 5-yard line. Flutie throws, touchdown, Alan Pitts, and there's a penalty flag in the end zone. They may be calling a pick play against the Stampeders.
It looked very close like a pick play, where all of a sudden Pitts was lined up inside as the slot, and he comes from the inside, the outside receiver comes out, kind of gets a little rub on the halfback that's covering Pitts, knocks him off just gently. Rod Hill's out there having some words with Pitts right now.
Bobby Evans was also exchanging words with Pitts.
Second down repeated.
They're calling the interference against Carl Bland. Teams run the pick play quite often and a lot of times get away with it, but that time the officials picked it up and Carl Bland was penalized. So the Alan Pitts touchdown, or apparent touchdown, is wiped out, and the ball comes back to the 15-yard line. First and 10. Or second, I should say, and 12 for the Stampeders, and Jason Jakovic, who is blitzing from his halfback position. His first game as a starter, makes the tackle. He has replaced Darrell Sampson at an inside halfback position, and the University of Manitoba product is excited, and justifiably so.
Not a better feeling for that young halfback, getting his first start, getting the first blitz, and all of a sudden you're sacking the #1 quarterback in the league, and Doug Flutie, stopping him now, nullifying the touchdown earlier, and also now forcing a field goal attempt as opposed to a possible 6 points.
Back at the 32-yard line, Mark McLaughlin will try for 3. The kick is up. It is good. So with 10:28 remaining in the opening quarter, the Calgary Stampeders enjoy a 3-0 advantage.
Well, with a turnover like that, that is a tremendous victory for the Winnipeg defense. The Winnipeg defense held this team in there very early in last week's game, and again, rose to the occasion out there with a fumble recovery after the punt return, and then all of a sudden, now they stop them to only 3 points. It's very uplifting now that Winnipeg offense can go out there and make something happen.
Mark McLaughlin of Calgary, the leading scorer in the Canadian Football League with 137 points. Terry Baker of Ottawa with 127 points. And Troy Westwood is 13 behind McLaughlin. Paul Osbaldiston, with his performance on Friday night, including a game-winning field goal for Hamilton over Edmonton, is now vaulted up in the standings, and he has moved in on Mark McLaughlin, the CFL scoring leader. Richardson and James are back for McLaughlin's kickoff. They had indicated today that the wind would pick up in the second half, switching from the south to the north. And Dan, you know what the wind can be like at Winnipeg Stadium when it moves to the north.
The good thing about this for both of these teams, first obviously that Winnipeg's at home, but they had such a win factor last week that both teams had the chance to play with this kind of win situation.
Lynn James on the kickoff return. James gets to the sideline and is taken out of bounds at the 36-yard line. The tackle is made by Blair Zerr. So the Winnipeg offense moves onto the field for the first time. A 25-yard kickoff return as Sammy Garza leads the Winnipeg offense onto the field.
The numbers for Sammy Garza really aren't that bad, and as I said, I feel personally that he's got a point to make coming in to prove himself to be a better quarterback than we basically saw in last week's game. It'll be very important for Sammy to be controlled, to take what this Calgary defense will give him, and also to establish a running game early.
And he'd like a little better protection than he got last week because he was sacked 7 times. Mike Richardson carries on the first play for Winnipeg, a pickup of about 5 yards. Michael Richardson made a spectacular debut against Hamilton, but he hasn't really done much as far as the Winnipeg ground game is concerned since then.
And the heat's on some of those other receivers, Thompson and Pillow. They have got to start catching the ball. They got to get the ball to him, make something happen out there offensively once Garza releases the ball to him.
2nd and 5. Garza has some room. He could run for a first down. He loses his helmet as he is hit by first Matt Finlay and then forced out of bounds by Alondra Johnson. But it appeared as though he had the first down before he was driven back. And you don't like to see the quarterback have his helmet popped off, as happened to Garza on that contact.
Well, if you're going to take a chance running against these kind of guys that we're seeing right now, Cofield, Hasselback, Zezakovic, and Johnson, they had a field day last week, and this is a very, very active linebacking core by Calgary. These guys will stroke you. And if Garza comes around there wide open and he's going to stand straight up and allow those guys to take shot on, you know, you don't do the crime if you can't do the time, and he had to pay a little price right there.
It looked as though he had crossed the 45-yard line and was going to get the first down, but as he attempted to spin around, you see him up across the 45-yard line. He was driven back, and the measurement reveals that Winnipeg is just short of a first down. So Urban Bowman, with less than a yard, leaves the offensive unit out there. Sammy Garza came on in relief of Matt Dunnigan 2 weeks ago against the Saskatchewan Roughriders and put 21 second-half points on the board in a Winnipeg victory. Last week he was under tremendous pressure in the second half. Interceptions, fumbles, blocked punts all led to a big second-half explosion by the Calgary Stampeders where they recorded 46 points. Garza gets the first down. It will be 1st and 10 Winnipeg. The ball is at the 46. 8:30 remaining in the opening quarter. 3-0 Calgary leads. Garza throws to the sidelines, intended for Gerald Alphen. He was being covered by Kenton Leonard. It will be 2nd and 10. Alphen initially in the CFL with Montreal and then Ottawa, where he had a most productive career before going to the National Football League, coming back to Winnipeg 3 games ago.
Expecting big things for Alphen. He is a great specimen of an athlete out there, got great speed. He only caught 3 passes last week for 20 yards.
Garza throws deep, intended for Thompson, and Thompson had maneuvered in behind Junior Thurman, but the throw was just a little high, and Larry Thompson, Winnipeg's leading receiver, was unable to pull it in, and Sammy Garza is upset.
Thought he should have had this, and ball's coming right at you in your living room. Thompson is behind it as Thurman takes a chance, ducks underneath the curl route. The ball is thrown high, right off the hands. Those are the catchable passes that make the difference in this game for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
Bob Cameron, who is recognized as perhaps the best bad weather punter in the Canadian Football League, stands at his own 33-yard line. Smith waits for it at the 27. Penalty flag in the play. Probably a no yards call against Winnipeg. We'll sort it out for you when we return. 7:42 remains in the opening quarter. Dreary kind of afternoon in the Manitoba capital. They were hoping, Dan, for a crowd of about 27,000, but the elements, I'm sure, have reduced the numbers who are in attendance.
Have taken effect really down on the walk-up crowd that should have been attending this game.
The 57 points the Stampeders recorded last week a Calgary club record. Their previous high was 55. It was also a club record for Winnipeg. In a negative way, they've never given up more than 55 previously. This is Alan Pitts on the receiving end, a crossing pattern in behind the linebackers, and he takes it down to the 46-yard line. 1st and 10, Calgary. BC and Ottawa in a 7-7 tie this afternoon. If the BC Lions lose this game and Calgary wins, the Stampeders will clinch a playoff position in the West.
What a great thing to be this early in the season and clinch that playoff place right now.
Well, when you played with Edmonton, you guys used to do it in August, didn't you? 1st and 10, Mitchell stopped at the line of scrimmage. He may have picked up about a yard. Lorenzo Baker, the outside linebacker, came over to make the tackle. He's a new addition to Winnipeg this year. They compare him to Ty Jones now with Saskatchewan. They suggest he has better speed than Ty Jones.
About 5'11", 220 out of Louisiana Tech Bulldogs. He does tremendous job at closing down and plays the run extremely well. What the Calgary Stampeders and Doug Flutie are going to do is try to get the mismatch with guys like Sapunjas against him and really test to see how fast he is.
2nd and 9. Sapunjas is wide open. He's got a 1st down, taken down by Donald Smith. Well, Sapunjas obviously likes playing at Winnipeg Stadium. The outstanding Canadian in last year's Grey Cup, having a great year for the Stampeders. He could go over 1,000 yards.
Sapunjas is just a terrific athlete. He enjoys playing anywhere that he can. And as long as Doug Flutie gets him the ball or gets it in the vicinity of where he is, he's going to make something happen for you. One of the most clutch receivers in this Calgary weaponry.
18 yards on the completion. Flutie to Sapunjas. 1st and 10, Calgary. The Stampeders at the Winnipeg 27-yard line. Booker is after Flutie. The pass incomplete. It looked as though Alan Pitts, off a deflection, was going to be able to haul it in, but then Pitts took a big hit as he reached high for the football.
Great thing that linebackers like doing, playing in zone coverage a lot of times, sits back, Pitts crossing. Doug Flutie has plenty of time to throw the ball, picks up the tip, and then comes in Randolph and also Don Smith to lay him out, jar that ball loose. And this is one of the trademarks of the Winnipeg defense. Intimidation and very, very physical.
2nd and 10, Calgary. Flutie is operating from the shotgun. Movement at the line of scrimmage. Which side jumped first? A lot of finger pointing going on both ways. But it's offside Winnipeg, according to referee George Black.
Michael Gray made a quick move right at the line of scrimmage, and the whistle was called immediately.
Offside, Winnipeg number 52. 2nd down repeated.
5:43 remaining in the opening quarter. 3-0 Calgary leading, but threatening to add to their 3-point advantage. You see the movement by Michael Gray, the veteran defensive tackle, at the line of scrimmage. So it's 2nd and 5, Calgary. Crawford comes wide to the right. Winnipeg showing blitz. Here comes the pressure. Flutie lost the football, and he was down by James West. Flutie was trying to get away from the pressure. He obviously saw the blitz coming as well.
Saw the blitz coming up the middle. Mitchell did a great job of picking up one of the Winnipeg defenders, left James West free, but as Flutie was trying to get the ball up, and then you can see that the elements are having a little bit of effect. The ball being slippery and wet comes out of his hands and then drops it. James West is right there on the spot to shut down Doug Flutie.
Just as Flutie looked, he saw James West, number 58, coming up the middle. And as you said, because of the wet football and the pressure he was feeling, the ball slipped out of his hands. He was fortunate to get it back. McLaughlin with a 42-yard field goal try. This one is wide. It goes through the end zone for a single point. So with 4:57 remaining in the opening quarter, the Stampeders lead by 4. Two Eastern Division teams have already posted wins over Western opponents this weekend. Hamilton beating Edmonton and Toronto over Saskatchewan last night. 4 points separating 1st and 3rd. The BC Lions almost in a must-win situation every game out if they hope to make the playoffs. Rob Creefel on the sidelines, and a spot caught the ball up at the 47-yard line, but they ruled he was also out of bounds, so it's an incomplete pass. So Ottawa now leading 14-7 over BC. Les Brown blocked a BC punt, and then Joseph took it into the end zone for the major score. Garza has yet to complete a pass. He is 0 for 3 throwing the football. 2nd and 10, the ball at the 35-yard line. Garza's sideline pattern high for Larry Thompson, and it's probably a good thing it was high, Dan.
Junior Thurman was right underneath that. If that ball had been thrown on line out there, that was 6 points going the other way. Thurman had it right in his sights. Garza just at this point does not look very comfortable out there. He doesn't look like he's a man that's playing with a lot of confidence. It's like shades of last week in the second half when he went out there and he was anticipating Calgary being in his face after every snap.
Does it make a difference from a Calgary standpoint in that they have had a week to prepare for Sammy Garza?
Not necessarily. I think at this point, preparing for Sammy Garza is a little easier than preparing for a guy like Matt Dunnigan. And they would much rather, and they feel probably a little more comfortable, having a guy like Sammy Garza in there as a starter.
Bob Cameron's 3rd down punt. Smith waits for it at the 35, loses the football, and is downed immediately. He was able to get it back. And Donald Smith was the first man downfield after a 40-yard punt.
And he was stopped on the play by
Sammy Garza took much of the blame for last week's performance, but Coach Urban Bowman said others were equally at fault. And when you look at 7 quarterback sacks, I suppose you can do some finger pointing.
Well, you can look at the offensive line, and this is a team. They're going to win as a team. They're going to lose as a team, and all of a sudden a team defense that played extremely well in the first half didn't show up in the second half.
1st and 10 from the 35-yard line. Mitchell inside, and then is upset by Jakovic as he hits the 40-yard line. Calgary would like to get Eric Mitchell into the flow of the game. They'd like to establish a ground game.
Well, they certainly can because of the kind of intimidating attacking defense that Winnipeg plays. They're up on the line of scrimmage. As soon as that initial block gets made at the line of scrimmage, at the point of attack, if a guy like Mitchell can break that, he's running right into the safety, and that's 20 yards down the field somewhere. So you're looking for big gains almost every time that you can get past the point of attack.
2nd and 4, Calgary from the 41-yard line. Flutie over the middle to Sapunjas, and Sapunjas has another Calgary first down, tackled by Jakovic down at the 51-yard line. Well, Bruce Covington played his minor football in the Winnipeg area. He's nicknamed the Big Tuna, and about 250 of his closest friends are here to provide support for the #1 draft choice of the Stampeders this afternoon.
I walk by him. That's Mr. Big Tuna as far as I'm concerned. That guy is like a house.
Andy McVeigh carries to the Winnipeg 46-yard line, stopped there by Vaughn Booker. 2:34 remaining in the opening quarter. Calgary in front, 4-0. Stampeders have been moving the football in this opening quarter, but so far they've only been able to put 4 points on the board. Doug Flutie has already surpassed his total for last week. He was held in check in the opening half. Sapunjas again, and Sapunjas carries to the 20-yard line. I think the Stampeders are trying to exploit the rookie in the Winnipeg secondary, Jason Jakovic.
And as they rightly should, he's the guy getting a first start out there. You're going to put Sapunjas out there. You're going to put Alan Pitts. You're going to test him to see if he can rise up to the occasion. And he just made a very rookie error there. As the ball was played on the throw into the out, he tries to make the cut underneath. And once you make that cut, 2 things have to happen. One, you either have to hit the ball, knock it down, or the other is you have to keep your backhand on the receiver so that in case you don't hit the ball, you're going to grab cloth and make the tackle.
Andy McVeigh has an open path to the goal line, and the Calgary Stampeders now lead by 10. It opened up for Andy McVeigh, and he had clear sailing for the final 15 yards.
One of the things that Doug Flutie does so extremely well, in effect, is that he uses all the weapons in his arsenal. Little counteraction back, play fake, comes back to the screen setup. They've run Pitts off, they run Crawford off the right-hand side in man-to-man coverage, and absolutely nobody's there. Blown coverage possibly in the secondary with the linebackers of Winnipeg.
Even you and I could have scored in that one, I think.
Well, I don't know. I would still be running. It would take me a little while to get into that end zone. I don't run the 40 quite as quick as I used to.
Mark McLaughlin adds the point after, and this opening quarter dominated by the Calgary Stampeders. They lead 11-0. They had one apparent touchdown by Alan Pitts, wiped out by a pass interference call, but Doug Flutie spotted McVeigh wide open, and for the final 15 yards, there was just nobody around him.
Very easy pass right there. He threw it up. Doug set it up with all the play action that he was doing. He'd been blocking McVeigh in there a number of times. Doug Flutie very happy. He's a very focused individual. He's a young man that can make a lot of things happen for you, and he's starting off right now exactly where he left off in Calgary last week.
Andy McVeigh with his first passing touchdown this year, and Coach Urban Bowman indicated that Danny McManus might see some action this afternoon. McManus might get into the ball game a lot earlier than even Bowman anticipated.
Well, not being the coach and not making the call myself, but what you can see early with Garza out there, he can't do any worse right now. Give the young fella a chance to get out there and see if he can happen. If not, you can put Garza back in.
Lynn James appeared to have a wall set up to the right, Dan, and for some reason he tried to go back up the middle, and he was tackled after a 17-yard return.
Talking with Coach Bowman yesterday, he was quite happy with Thompson in the sense that, with James, I mean, that he felt that he could see the openings, he could see the walls, he could see the cracks. They went through films over and over and over again. He thought he had some great vision. So he really is expecting big things from this return man.
As Bowman also said, he promised me also he would not hold up his hand signaling a fair catch. Garza remains at quarterback. From the 32-yard line, he gives to Richardson, and Richardson breaks it open and carries across midfield to the 52-yard line. The feeling with the Blue Bombers is that they would be able to run against Calgary.
Well, they felt they had. Calgary has been run against a lot this year, particularly in Labor Day. The Edmonton Eskimos had a successful time running against. These are some long, rangy defensive linemen. They get up the field extremely well. One of the big things that I think that they missed desperately in that defensive front is Stu Laird, who anchored it and was able to be very effective against the rush.
Well, Richardson had a spectacular debut against the Hamilton Ticats, but hasn't really done much since then. He carries to the 45 of Calgary. Richardson against Hamilton carried 22 times for 197 yards in his first game of the year. Since then, he's carried 33 times for only 128 yards.
Was used very sparingly last week. He only rushed the ball 9 times for 43 yards. It is very important that if Winnipeg can establish this running game, it'll help take some of that heat off Garza, and he'll have a little more time to throw the ball.
This looks like a holding call against Warren Hudson, as Richardson appeared to have the first down. Alondra Johnson made the tackle. That would have been the final play of the opening quarter.
Holding, Winnipeg number 37. Second down repeated.
But because of the holding call against Warren Hudson, the Bombers will repeat second down.
Just coming right out of the left of your screen, Warren Hudson had the arm bar on him, took him upfield, and was able to grab some cloth, push him out the side, got the holding call.
Winnipeg looking at 2nd and 12, and this should be the final play of the opening quarter. Garza throwing deep for Thompson. Thurman managed to get between Thompson and the quarterback, and the ball was underthrown. Fortunately for Winnipeg Blue Bomber quarterback Sammy Garza on the final play of the opening quarter. First quarter dominated by the Stampeders. Doug Flutie completed 8 of 10 passes for 150 yards. He obviously is attempting to atone for last week when he had one of his lowest passing games of the season.
Well, the thing that Doug did, he came out and he did not make the kind of adjustments that he needed to make early in the thing. Did make those in the second half and just had incredible numbers. And again, he's picking up right now where he left off in the second half.
Pressure on Cameron. Dwayne Ford came through, but Cameron was able to get the kick away, and Pee Wee Smith is down at the 22-yard line. Pee Wee Smith established a club record last week for combined yards, 323 against Winnipeg. Mark?
Well, Don, 6 weeks ago, Nick Benjamin lost his job here in Winnipeg when the Blue Bombers released him. He is back, returning this week. And Nick, it's not often you get a second chance with the same team.
No, not really. But unfortunately, I have opportunity to try and make up a lineup again and hopefully work out sometime.
When the Bombers cut you, they said it had nothing to do with your talent, but more with your attitude. Has that changed?
Oh, yes, it is. I've had some little problems that, outside of football that I had to take care of, and everything's fine, and I'm doing okay now.
Good luck, and thanks for coming by in the rain here.
Thank you very much.
Don?
Yes, and Urban Bowman is convinced that Nick Benjamin can make a contribution to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
It'd be a great addition to this offensive line sitting up there. Will probably enable them to run the ball a little bit more than what they want. It'd be a terrific asset.
Carl Bland was on the receiving end of the Flutie throw.
Carl Bland working on Rod Hill a lot. He's got great thing, gets him turned, and all of a sudden now Doug Flutie, the thing he's having all day long to stand back there and throw the ball. These receivers can only, and the defensive backs can only cover those guys for 4 or 5 seconds. You've got to get a little more heat on Doug Flutie up front.
Andy McVeigh, the ball carrier. There's a penalty flag in the play. The ball comes loose. Winnipeg claim they've got it.
And we got a holding call against Calgary, so Winnipeg will keep the ball down.
James West, who sacked quarterback Doug Flutie in the first quarter.
Calgary number 54. Penalty is declined. First down.
Comes up with a fumble recovery. The holding call against McDonald, the center, is declined.
Bob McDonald, the center, right in the middle of your screen, just grabs a hold of the hip right there, and then Andy McVeigh loses the ball. James West is all over the field. He is truly the inspiration on this Winnipeg defense.
Swing pass to Richardson. This
That's
one
a
might be a
fumble.
live ball.
They don't know it. It's a fumble. It's live.
Carl Anthony picked it up. I thought that pass was behind Richardson. And Wally Buono, I believe, thinks so as well.
Wally definitely knows, and there's Coach Don Southern right there. He knows for a fact the ball, as that was just a swing pass to the right-hand side, the ball was thrown behind him. That is a live ball. It is a lateral. Calgary very well should have been able to pick this ball up and run it in for 6 points.
You be the judge. Is that pass behind the quarterback? I think it was.
Well, as a defensive player, I'd be arguing like crazy that it wasn't if I was Calgary and then rushing it in for 6 points.
Garza trying to take advantage, looking for Crefo, incomplete. And again, Garza underthrew the receiver, and the defensive back was able to get in between the receiver and the quarterback, who has yet to complete a pass in 7 attempts.
A thing that bothers me with is the fact that with a young quarterback coming out for his first start, I would be out there trying to gain some confidence in this game. Going out there, dumping the ball off a little bit, hitting the short passes, taking the 5 or 6 yard route right now, and building confidence to them and getting those secondary guys at Calgary biting up. Before you start going for the home run right now, you're not going to get that 11 points back all at one time, and it shows it because he's 0 for 7.
Bobby Evans almost too late in getting on the field for this Troy Westwood field goal of 53 yards. It's good.
What a leg.
Troy Westwood has been kicking extremely well for the Bombers this year, and he puts them on the board. Troy Westwood had a streak of 17 consecutive field goals going last week in Calgary when a bad snap on his 18th attempt was mishandled by Bob Cameron, and his field goal try missed the uprights. But he has been very consistent this year for Winnipeg.
Absolutely. Coming in, filling in after a guy like Trevor Kenner, who has been here forever and ever kicking the ball. There was a lot of pressure on him, and he really responded to it.
Hand off to Mitchell. A lot of movement in the Calgary backfield up to the 41-yard line. Now, was this trying to throw Winnipeg off, or was there some confusion on the part of the Stampeders?
One of the ploys that Doug Flutie likes to do, he gets a lot of movement, as you said, in that backfield, running guys out, waggling them out there, and then if Winnipeg is in a man-to-man defense, they have to adjust accordingly, and that tips off Doug Flutie once he gets the snap of what kind of coverage they're in and who he's going to go to early.
Gain of 7 at 2nd and 3, Calgary. Mitchell bounced off the initial contact, and that was Doug Flutie downfield. field to throw a block for Mitchell as he got all the way to the 37-yard line. Now, you don't want your quarterback, Dan, downfield throwing blocks like that.
Well, you don't really want to, but it just shows the kind of attitude that a guy like Doug Flutie has. He wants to get after it. He wants to win this game. He's going to do everything that he possibly can to help the play. Poor tackling by the Winnipeg defense up early. They shut it down, and then Mitchell was able to bounce it outside, slide around. Doug Flutie gets a block. Everybody's involved in the play.
A gain of 31 yards for Mitchell. 1st and 10. The ball is at the 37. Flutie won't get a chance to throw. He goes down in the grasp of Paul Randolph. Mark?
Don, the Blue Bombers have decided to make a quarterback change. Sammy Garza coming out here. Danny McManus warming up on the sidelines, taking some snaps. This will be a new experience for him. He has not played it down in a regular season game in the CFL in 16 games going back to October 12th last year. He's coming into a cold and wet one here to try to get the Bomber offense going.
A Florida State product, Danny McManus. Many thought was the quarterback of the future when he initially signed with Winnipeg. 2nd and 17. Flutie throws to the sidelines, incomplete. It was intended for Bland, and he was well covered by Donald Smith. I still can't believe Doug Flutie was 15 yards downfield on that 31-yard run by Eric Mitchell throwing a block.
Well, the play was designed just a quick little dive play right up the middle, and then all of a sudden, as Mitchell broke it out, Flutie found himself that he was in front of Mitchell. Then he was able, well, I'm standing here, I might as well go throw a block for him, get downfield.
Well, you know, they say there's enough little boy in Doug Flutie that he loves competition. He'll play flag football, basketball, and hockey in the offseason, and obviously he's a competitor. James fields the 3rd down punt, but there is no running room. Greg Knox did a fine job of protecting the outside. 10:04 remains in the first half. Calgary leads by 8. With 10:04 remaining in the 2nd quarter, Danny McManus takes over at quarterback. Coach Bowman was telling us yesterday that McManus has a great touch technically and mentally. He is well prepared, but he lacks pizzazz.
Well, the kind of thing is, it's his attitude of whether he's got that killer attitude where he can really go out there and just intimidate you, and he is so aggressive, and they need him to be aggressive.
Warren Hudson, the ball carrier, he'll get 3, maybe 4 yards.
You know, he's from the South. He's down in there. He's got that laid back, don't worry about it, we'll take care of it tomorrow kind of attitude, and you need to turn it up a notch. And we talked about possibly this being the future of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers as far as the quarterback. He gets his chance now, and he's got to go out there, and he's got a perfect situation to perform and maybe win a starting role.
2nd and 5, Winnipeg. Off to Richardson. Richardson trying to get outside, and he is going to be tracked down by Darrell Hall. This is an adjustment a lot of teams have made this year. They've converted a defensive back into a linebacker.
I'm glad it's happening now than back in the days when I played. This is the first time I played, because guys like that,
I don't think it would have put you on.
Guys like that are putting a lot of linebackers out of work because they're coming up there. Darrell Hall, a very physical, 6'2", 205 pounds, has great speed. He can cover the inside receivers. He can cover the running back, but also he's tough enough to be able to stand in there and take on a pulling guard, take on a fullback, and be able to play extremely physical against the rush.
Bob Cameron had his best punting year in 1983 when he averaged almost 47 yards per kick. Tucker waits for the ball, and Tucker won't get any further than the 45-yard line. That was about a 3-yard return. Leon Hatziano made the tackle. Winnipeg this week completing 8 weeks of back-to-back games. They started with Toronto. They lost at the Sky Dome. They won back at Winnipeg Stadium. Then they had back-to-back losses to Hamilton. Against the Saskatchewan Roughriders, they lost the first game on the Labor Day weekend at Taylor Field. Won back here at Winnipeg Stadium. They lost at McMahon Stadium last week, and they hope that they'll get a win on their home turf today. A no yards call by against Winnipeg improves Calgary's field position. And that takes the ball to the 35-yard line. Urban Bowman has seen his team in very bad field position almost since the opening drive. Flutie was looking for Sapunjas. I think Ron Booker may have got a hand up in front of that throw. Ron Booker is a fine prospect. Recommended to the Bombers by Dave Ritchie. And then about a week later, Ritchie went to Ottawa as an assistant coach.
Big guy, 6'5", 265 pounds. He's got good hands as far as being able to work with the offensive lineman, not letting them get in close to him, keeping him off of him, and then be able to get some elevation and get up into Doug Flutie's face, because Doug is not that tall of a quarterback.
The blitz was coming. Flutie saw it coming from the left side, and he had to hurry his throw, and as a result, it's 2 and out for the Stampeders.
This kind of thing from a defensive point of view is very contagious. Getting good excitement, getting good pressure on a guy like Doug Flutie. Then they realize now it looks like shades of the first half of last week's game in Calgary.
8:01 remaining in the half. 11-3, Calgary leads. Play is whistled down. Perhaps referee George Black had not signaled time in when the ball was snapped.
Lots of confusion out there on the Winnipeg side, and the fact that they did not know whether Calgary was going for a field goal or punting, and they were caught right in the middle. They had half of their field goal block team out there, or their field goal return team, and then all of a sudden they got caught up with only half of the punt return team. It is actually a punt, so now everything is settled.
Tony Martino trying to angle it out of Browns. Matt Pierce has it bounced off him. A scramble for the ball. Penalty flag on the play, and Calgary appears to have recovered. Matt Pierce is normally a very sure-handed punt return man. Last week against Calgary at McMahon Stadium, he mishandled the ball 3 times. He tried to let the ball bounce in front of him. It hit his leg. There was a penalty flag on the play. It appeared as though Doug Davies recovered.
First down.
Well, obviously, Doug Davies did not recover. I thought he had.
That is a tough call. We'll take a look at it, but you can see right there, he was letting the ball go. He had plenty of time to go up there and feel that ball. The thing is, I think all of a sudden, flashbacks of last week may have come in there, and he got a little gun shy, and he backed off of it. When he did, the ball hit, bounced his leg, and all of a sudden, he creates also almost another turnover.
Well, I said I thought Calgary had recovered the football, and indeed, it appears as though they did.
They got the holding call, too. They got the holding call. So they'll move it halfway.
So it was Doug Davies recovering the football. George Black, the referee, had initially signaled Winnipeg first down.
Well, that shows that even those refs can be human every now and then and make a mistake. And these are the kind of things, just mental mistakes that are killing the Winnipeg, both offensively, defensively, and on the special teams right now.
Second time today, Dan, that they fumbled the punt deep in their own zone. First and goal. Eric Mitchell fights his way to the 5-yard line. In the opening quarter on Calgary's first punt, Lynn James mishandled the ball. The Stampeders recovered. Matt Pierce mishandling the kick by Tony Martino, and Calgary is now second and goal from the 5.
Don, it goes without saying that any team that's playing against the Calgary Stampeders right now, you have to play error-free football. Then you still may not have a chance to win the football game. But when you're making this many mistakes and almost defeating yourself, you're going to make it very easy for a team like Calgary to beat you up.
Winnipeg has been self-destructing. A pass to the end zone, incomplete, intended for Sapunjas. It was a little high. And Jason Jakovic was just a little late in getting there to defend.
Jason's been burned a couple of times early. There's no problem. And then when he starts to push off, Sapunjas creates the void and creates the separation between the two. Michael Gray, the defensive lineman with Winnipeg, was able to get up in Doug Flutie's face and did not allow him to throw that ball on time. Had he had the time and the vision to be able to look into the end zone and throw the ball on time, that was an easy 6 points for Sapunjas.
Still looking for his first touchdown. Mark McLaughlin A field goal attempt is good, and with 6:38 remaining in the half, it's 14-3 Calgary. At Lansdowne Park in Ottawa, the BC Lions trying to make it 4 in a row. They lead the Ottawa Rough Riders 17-14 at halftime.
They've got to be pretty excited out there. I mean, they're on a roll now. They were winning without the owner, and with Bill Comrie, the new owner, he's going to be just a great addition to the CFL.
Andrew Martin on the kickoff return for Winnipeg, and Errol Tucker drives him back from the 40-yard line, but Winnipeg will scrimmage at the 40, 1st and 10. Mark?
Well, Don, the Argos were winners last night with new head coach Dennis Meyer in control, a 39-32 victory over Saskatchewan, and Dennis Meyer will join us live at the Half from Toronto. Alan Eagleson will also drop by to join our broadcast as CBC gets set to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the Canada-Soviet Hockey Summit on Ice. And we'll also get up close and personal with the guy they call the Big Tuna, rookie offensive tackle Bruce Coverton of the Calgary Stampeders. All on Live at the Half.
We look forward to that, Mark. Mike Richardson, the ball carrier, and Richardson loses the football. It's still loose, and I think Winnipeg got it back. Frank Pillow came over to scoop up that loose football, but this is one of the problems Richardson had in his debut against Hamilton. He put the ball in the ground 3 times.
Put the ball on the ground 3 times. Early in the career, again, in good weather conditions. This is the kind of conditions you come in there, you get a shot that Calgary is noted for being able to tackle the ball, putting your helmet on it. The ball laid around, flopped around on the ground. Heads up play by Pillow to come in there to keep this drive alive.
Nobody was sure where the football was. Sideline pattern, incomplete. Pillow looking for the football. A penalty flag on the play.
But we got a late flag there as Pillow made his move up the sideline. I don't know what it looked like. Maybe Carl Anthony put the hand out there, grabbed the little cloth. They may get a penalty off defensive pass interference against Calgary.
Or did Pillow step out of bounds in trying to run his pattern?
Forward pass interference, Calgary number 19. First down.
He's probably forced out of bounds by Carl.
Well, he could be. That's exactly right. I think as he made the move up, it was just an out-and-up pattern. As he made the break, he had a step on Carl, and when he was able to get by him, Carl reached out there, grabbed the cloth a little bit, pushed him, and then if you are pushed out as a receiver by a defensive guy, you are allowed to come back into the playing field.
It's only when you go out on your own that you are not eligible to continue.
And if you go out on your own, I don't think any coach wants you anyway. You might as well keep going right to the locker room.
That's right. 1st and 10, the handoff to Richardson. Richardson was initially hit, and then Alondra Johnson came in to finish the job. I think it was Hasselback who made the initial contact with Richardson, and the linebacker came in to help finish the job. 5:14 remains in the half. Alondra Johnson has been having an outstanding year.
Absolutely one of the best in the league right now. Very versatile out there. He plays the pass extremely well, but he covers from slot back to slot back as well as any middle linebacker I've seen in a long time. This Calgary front 7 has only allowed 5 rushing touchdowns the whole season, and this is really a compliment to the way they get after you and their team speed.
McManus throws to the sidelines. He was looking for Thompson, incomplete. Winnipeg has only scrimmaged once on the Calgary side of midfield.
They get in tough situations where they don't get very much production out of the 1st and 10 plays. It puts them in the 2nd and long situation a lot. And every time that I've seen that so far, they're going 15 to 20 to 25 yards downfield as much as opposed to, in my opinion, of just working that 8-10 yard guy, dump the ball off, and then let these receivers out there work with the ball to try to pick up the 1st down and keep the drive alive for you.
Good kick by Cameron. Smith lets it bounce, and it will go right through the end zone. You know, you wonder sometimes, I'm sure there are viewers who may wonder, there's also a penalty flag in the play about a punt returner letting that ball bounce. Most punt returners get instructions from their coaches, a holding call against Calgary, but most punt returners get instructions from their coaches from the 5-yard line in, let the ball bounce in the artificial turf.
Absolutely, you took the words right out of Wally Bono's mouth. Last week it happened to Pee Wee again because he tried to field the punt. And inside the 5, inside the 10-yard line in some cases, you let the ball drop, it goes in, you give up the single point. Pee Wee tried to field the ball in the first part of last week's game at about the 5-yard line over his shoulder, mishandled the punt. James West recovered it for the touchdown. And all it comes down to is follow directions. Do what you're told to do. And that's the difference between good players and great players. Great players do what they're told
Holding.
and a little
Calgary
extra.
number 19. No point. First down on the 5.
A holding call against Anthony, and not much doubt about.
As Martin makes that move inside, it's just grab the jersey. You got to figure that this is going to happen. They are holding, they're clippings on every specialty team that's out there, punt return. It's just whether or not they're flagrant enough to call them. In that case, you're standing right out in the middle of the wide open field. No protection around you as far as a lot of other bodies, and it goes down as a takedown. 2 points for that.
First down at the 5-yard line. Flutie actually collided with Andy McVeigh in the exchange between the quarterback and the running back. Right now, let's join Mark Lee.
Well, Don, the weather conditions here have really deteriorated over the last half hour. The wind's now gusting from the north at about 60 kilometers per hour. I'm having a hard time with 2 hands battling this big umbrella, and it's no wonder that the offenses here are having extreme difficulty passing the football in the wet and in the extremely windy conditions here in Winnipeg today. Back to you.
Mark, hang tight to that umbrella, or you might wind back up on your patio. I think that's where he got the umbrella.
I think it was exactly where he got it.
Bland was the man that Flutie was looking for, and he was being covered by Smith, and James West was again pressuring the Calgary quarterback. You know, I talked about Dave Sapunjas and the fine game he played in the Grey Cup game at Winnipeg Stadium last year. Carl Bland didn't have a bad afternoon either. 11 passes for 136 yards and a losing cause against Toronto.
Carl Bland is an excellent receiver. Again, that just adds another one of those outside threats that allows Doug Flutie to be able to throw the ball deep a lot. This guy here, James West, every time I watch him, I've been a chance to watch him 2 weeks in a row, just absolutely amazes me with his physical ability out there. This is a guy that's bordering right now on 36 years old, and he's doing it as good as I have ever seen him do it.
They're going to concede a safety touch rather than kick into the strong wind. And I was just going to ask that, how come James West is still playing and you're not?
That's because James West is a superior athlete. He really is. He has done it as physical as anybody that I have ever seen in this league play. Now, he's vocal. He's the kind of guy that as an offensive player, you hate to play against him. You hate him, period, a lot of times, because he does. He hits you, he knocks you down, he talks to you, and then he just really absolutely taunts you a lot of times.
There's a guy who wore 42 for Edmonton, used to play much the same way.
Well, the only thing, the difference between me and that just shows the superior condition of a guy like James West was the fact that he's in such great shape that he can also chase you 50 yards, knock you down, and then tell you about it. If I chased anybody 50 yards, I'm sucking wind. There's no way I'm going to talk to anybody with.
You know, I think Winnipeg may opt to kick off to Calgary after the safety touch. They do have the choice. And we saw Rod Hill talking to George Black. No, they're going to kick off. I thought they may try and drive it deep on Calgary and hope that their defense would be able to pin them in like they did on the last series of downs. Because following a safety touch, they do have that option. They can either kick off or receive.
I think at this point now, once you've got a point, you've got a few things happening right now, never give up the ball. Try to get the ball in your possession right now. Don't put the responsibility so much on the defense to make something else happen out there, because anytime Doug Flutie has a chance to touch the ball, he can make a lot of things happen.
Brendan Rodgers, who has excelled for Winnipeg on special teams as a downfield tackler, returns the kickoff, and Winnipeg, for only the second time, has the football on the Calgary side of midfield.
Well, it's questionable at that time that kick was just a driving low kick up to just the second wave of the return team. And again, Brendan Rodgers was able to pick it up. That's an exciting time, particularly for a person that never gets to touch the ball very often. All of a sudden you see that ball come, your eyes get a little smaller, and your cheekbones get a little tighter in the back, and you just say, please let me hold it. Please let me squeeze this ball.
Rob Crefo squeezes the football at the 42-yard line, and the fans react as McManus and Crefo hook up for a first down with 2:51 remaining in the opening half. 14-5, Calgary leads. The weather weather forecast for today was right on. This morning, with very light winds, they suggested in the afternoon they would pick up, blowing out of the north up to 60. And as a result, Winnipeg won the toss, and Urban Bowman deferred his choice until the second half.
And in a lot of cases in Winnipeg, they are calling this a light wind. It's blowing a lot of... I get a little nervous about this, that it could get worse than this.
Lynn James, the new punt returner, said he had never encountered wind conditions such as he experienced this week in his first 2 workouts with Winnipeg. McManus looking for Thompson well over his head. That previous pass from McManus to Rob Creefel was Winnipeg's first pass completion of the afternoon.
It was a good pass again, but it was so much inside. It was one of the medium routes down about 10 or 12 yards just over the middle, able to get around the outside of Belandro Johnson. Creefel is a big target in there, and that's why I can't understand right now why you're not, and why the quarterbacking are not going to those routes right now, just to gain some yardage and also to build up some confidence.
Second and 10, and this is what Wally Buono hoped the Stampeders would be able to do, keep Winnipeg second and long. The pass complete to Richardson. He's got a first down. He got a good block from Frank Pillow, enabling him to get to the 25-yard line.
Calgary's in a zone defense. It's second and long, and he does a great job. They're going to take away the deep throw. They're not going to allow you to get the ball downfield a lot. McManus does a good job. He takes a look downfield, comes back, boom. He comes back to his alternate receiver right there. Richardson's able to pick it. Pillows comes in from the outside, gets a block, and the Calgary defense had to collapse on it, but not before the first down was picked up.
Matt Dunnigan shouting encouragement from the sidelines. There's some question whether or not he will be ready for next week's game against Edmonton. Richardson, the ball carrier, to the 20-yard line. Winnipeg has only had 5 first downs in this half. 2:05 is the time remaining. 14-5, Calgary leads.
Again, I think it comes back to their first and 10 productions has been so poor that it's put them in second and long situations through the course of the first half. And again, they have really backed themselves into a corner, and that's why they're not getting the positive results they would like to have, obviously.
McManus getting some heat from Johnson, looking for Gerald Alphin, and he overthrew him. So Troy Westwood will come into the game. Actually, McManus was fortunate that he was able to escape Johnson.
McManus shows at that time he's got some mobility. He was able to get outside, turn around, get outside away, and be able to run away from Will Johnson. Alphin's working downfield. He's man-to-man. He's locked up, and then tries to slide back inside. McManus sees him at the last minute, but as Alphin slides to the inside, McManus is going to the outside. He can't get his shoulders turned back upfield to be able to deliver the ball on line.
Bob Cameron holds for Troy Westwood for a 28-yard field goal attempt. And the Winnipeg Blue Bombers have narrowed the deficit to 6 points with 1:37 remaining in the first half. Injured Winnipeg slot back Gerald Wilcox is sitting up in the broadcast booth close to us, and your comment about the short passing game, I noticed that Gerald was nodding his head in agreement. Of course, slot backs would always say that, wouldn't they?
I think they like that because, you know, a lot of those times they don't get to go deep a lot, but they can catch 8 or 10 or 12 passes over the middle and then make big gains out of them.
But I think Gerald absolutely concurs that Winnipeg has to go to that short passing game.
Well,
they don't want to be in second and long as often as they have been.
Well, we'd like to make that announcement now that myself and Gerald, we're going to get into the coaching profession here. And it's a lot easier coaching than actually playing out there sometimes.
A gain of about 3 yards for Eric Mitchell. Matt Dunnigan with a variety of hurts. And I'm sure playing this year, feeling a lot of pressure to perform.
Well, there's a tremendous amount of pressure on Matt Dunnigan. He's coming in here, has established himself, a big contract. He wants to justify that basically that the money that he's getting and the contribution that he's making are equal. And therefore that forces you as a person and his ego to go out and try to play over and above some of those injuries that he has, and it's gotten him into some problems.
Pitts was the intended target, and that pass was just a little behind him. For the Calgary receivers, they have had to make some adjustments this year to quarterback Doug Flutie as opposed to Danny Barrett last year.
Well, Doug throws such a different pass than Barrett in a sense. He's got a really nice soft touch. The ball is easy in there, and it gets absolutely kind of second nature that you know that you're going to catch that ball once Doug delivers it to you. Now, the thing that happened over the past 3 or 4 games is that a lot of these Calgary receivers are dropping the pass. That's because I personally feel they're taking for granted that the catch is going to be made, and they're taking a little peek right at the last minute to try to figure out where that defensive guy is or where they're going to make a move after they catch the ball.
You get an indication just how much the wind has increased in velocity as Martino's kick barely got back to the line of scrimmage. Randolph wisely jumped in to grab it, and he trapped about 3 Calgary players in that no-yards area.
Great heads-up play there. Even better than that, I'd like to go back to the defensive series right before that, was the fact that this is where Doug Flutie is so effective in the last minute or 2 before a half or at the end of a football game. And again, they were able to get out there, shut him down.
Infraction on the play. Number 33 Calgary was onside. First down.
Well, they're ruling that Ken Watson of Calgary was onside on that 3rd down punt. But it appeared as though there were about 3 Calgary players inside that 5-yard area. But you know, Urban Bowman's decision to defer to the second half after winning the toss may prove to pay some dividends, because that wind has really increased in velocity. McManus collides with Richardson, and Winnipeg was fortunate that Dave Van Conant was there to pounce on the loose football.
Just a trap play there, and he's looking to, as Richardson's looking to hand the ball back off on the right-hand side to follow Chris Walby and Black pulling around to the left. And again, McManus just comes out of there too deep at a wrong angle and runs right into Richardson.
Grifo, the intended receiver, and that pass was behind him with 46 seconds remaining in the half. You know, when you see a mix-up like that, McManus and Richardson, during practice this week, knowing that Garza was the starting quarterback, would McManus have had many reps in practice?
I would not think that he would have that many. I think that most of his education would come strictly from watching the films, because obviously Garza didn't have that much experience going in from last week's game, so they want to give him the majority share of the reps as in practice, and McManus would just have to take the scraps that were left over.
A 57-yard field goal attempt for Troy Westwood. He hit one earlier from 53. This one was deflected at the line of scrimmage. Pee-wee Smith takes it out of the end zone, loses the ball. It's still loose. Calgary gets it back. Oh, there have been some strange bounces this afternoon, haven't there? Ken Watson recovered.
The one thing, as when Smith was able to get the ball out of there, when he came out, the one thing that you got to know, particularly with the time frame, is all I have to do is get it out of the end zone and hold on to this ball. That's all I have to do. Doug Flutie will either run out the clock or put some points on the board, one of the two.
Well, with 32 seconds remaining, I think it's safe to assume, operating against that strong north wind, that Doug Flutie will try and run out the clock. John Gregory was telling me a couple of weeks back that in the CFL, there have to be less than 37 seconds remaining in the half or at the end of the game to successfully run out the clock. He's got it all figured out.
I wouldn't argue. He's a head coach. He's got it going pretty good out there.
McVeigh, the ball carrier, he gets up to the 10-yard line where he stopped. And you know something else? John Gregory in the Eastern Division is the coach with the longest tenure in the CFL. He was hired on September 1st last year. So with Adam Rita getting fired, he's number 1.
Does he get a gold watch with that one?
He just wants to hang on to his job.
I think he wants to hang on to his job and just win that Eastern Division.
Well, the Ticats with their win over the Edmonton Eskimos on Friday night, Paul Osbaldiston kicking the winning field goal with just 4 seconds remaining, are now in first place in the East, but the Ottawa Rough Riders have a chance to move back into a tie if they can defeat the BC Lions this afternoon. .29 seconds remaining. Timeout called. Calgary may be forced to kick this ball away. by Vaughn Booker. And he's down at the 7-yard line. Battle came over as well. Flutie was trying to take some time off the clock. That's the reason he rolled out, I would assume.
Two things. As he's trying to get wide out the field, sprinting out to the right, he's going to try to look downfield, maybe try to throw the pass if he can. If not, his next option is trying to run the ball as best he can to get down the field. Takes a look. Good pursuit by Booker. Shuts him down a bit. Greg Battle is outside of Booker, and Booker just continuing in pursuit of him, does a terrific job. Greg Battle was there, didn't allow Flutie to get up the field, got him jammed, forced him to try to run another play here.
And on third down, Flutie will simply watch the clock, and he'll let it tick away. Winnipeg has used its timeout, and Flutie lets the final seconds run off, and then he goes down back at the 2-yard line, and that is the final play of the opening half at Winnipeg Stadium, with the Stampeders leading by 6. Stay tuned for Live at the Half.
Coach of the Argonauts talking to us live from Toronto. Well, they call him the Big Tuna. He's Bruce Covington, rookie offensive tackle with the Calgary Stampeders, and he's making his home debut here in his hometown of Winnipeg. This was the scene yesterday as his friends brought him in the Moo bus. Bruce Covington joined with his offensive line mates, his friends from Morris, where he was born, and here in Winnipeg, and of course Doug Flutie joining him for that big chauffeur drive into the stadium. There he is, trying to be a quarterback, throwing a football like a big fish. And last night, the offensive lineman, Flutie, off to Bruce Covington's home for a big steak dinner. About 250 of his friends are here at this game, and we'll talk with them in the second half. The CFL on CBC returns right after this.
Well, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, who won the coin toss to start the game, but deferred choice of kicking, receiving, or end until the second half, hope to take advantage and have the wind at their back going home. As a player, Dan, I think you always wanted to have the wind behind you in the fourth quarter.
Certainly can. Anytime that I could have a guy like Tom Wilkinson or Warren Moon going out there and throwing with the wind, if we're ahead or behind, it wouldn't make any difference. We'd like to have that to our advantage. The big thing right now is for this Winnipeg defense to rise to the occasion, play as consistently as they have in the first half, do not make any mental errors, and do not let Calgary have any cheap scores going into the win. And that gives you a chance that you keep you into the game, and it keeps you there and gives you a chance to finish this thing and maybe win.
Conversely, Calgary will try and put points on the board with the wind at their back in this third quarter. And Pee Wee Smith is on the kickoff return up to the 49-yard line, but there's a penalty flag on the play. A 13-yard return after a short 39-yard kickoff. And it's a holding call against Calgary that will bring the ball back.
Holding, Calgary number 51. First down.
Alondra Johnson was guilty of holding on the kickoff return. There wasn't a great deal of offense in the first half. Look at that, Winnipeg with only 75 net yards. You know, in the last 3 games, Winnipeg has had less than 300 yards offense.
And it just goes to show you why they're not winning the football games and why they haven't been able to perform when they're not getting the ball up and down the field.
Paul Randolph deflected the pass Flutie intended for Alan Pitts. Flutie had to throw that one quickly because Lorenzo Baker was coming on a blitz from the backside.
These guys are going back to that old Winnipeg-style defense that I remember playing against. They intimidate you. They blitz a lot of linebackers. The front 3 people really are getting good pressure. And it goes back to the first half of last week's game. Doug Flutie had to throw the ball under a lot of pressure, off balance, the whole first half.
David Sapunjas has been a favorite target of Doug Flutie. On second down, where will he go? Carl Bland is on the receiving end of the throw, tackled by Smith, but he's short of a first down. Flutie last week didn't have great numbers, 261 yards, and this is a quarterback that has had 5 games this year with over 400 yards.
Quick little hitch here, just a great tackle because this was deja vu of last week's game when they came up and mistackled and allowed Pee Wee Smith to break it for about 70 or 80 yards down the field for a big score. Come up there, get your hands on and wrap those guys up, make sure of the tackle.
Pierce fields the ball at the 30-yard line, and Pierce is brought down at the 38. 13:53 remaining in the third quarter. 14-8 Calgary leads. The BC Lions hanging on against Ottawa. 17-15. The Lions leading the Rough Riders.
Some rebels with the calls out there on the West Coast.
They're interested in having that 15% pay cut reinstated.
Well, I think you either have the chance of the 15 pay cut, or you could get a new dining room set. I'm not exactly sure how Mr. Connery's going to work that.
Good line. I like that. A midnight madness set.
Exactly. We're going to try to do this right now. They were closed for the first 8 weeks of the season. Now they're reopened.
Mike Richardson, the ball carrier. Darryl Hall came up to make the tackle. Danny McManus, who took over from Sammy Garza, is continuing as the Winnipeg quarterback. The Bombers have had no success in throwing the football. As a matter of fact, they haven't had much success either in running with the ball.
Well, this is a new half right here, and hopefully they went in and made some adjustments to help McManus come out here and establish himself. The heat's going to be on him all the way.
Crefo makes the catch up at the 50-yard line. Crefo's a big target.
Oh, is he ever a big target? He stands out there at 6'6", 230. He reaches those arms up. He's up there fixing some of the flagpoles that are setting up there. But he comes down there, and what makes it so tough, as he comes downfield and turns and curls inside of you, he's such a big target against any of those defensive backs, and all that McManus has to do is throw the ball up in the air high a little bit, and those defensive backs have a very tough time getting up there.
Miles Garallo had all sorts of problems with Will Johnson last week, trying to keep Johnson out of the backfield. I don't know whether his tactics were completely legal or not, but there was no penalty flag.
Well, Miles goes that philosophy, no crime, no foul kind of thing, and that if it doesn't draw blood, it definitely isn't any foul. He's been holding ever since he's been in the league. It's a matter of percentages that we get back again. McManus is going to get good heat all the time up here, and he's going to have to realize quick reads, quick releases.
Zizakovic was in his face very quickly. 2nd and 10, Winnipeg. Crefo again to the 45-yard line, tackled there by Tucker. A 16-yard gain. Perhaps Gerald Wilcox slipped down to the dressing room during the halftime break and mentioned your comment about throwing inside the short pattern.
Oh, that's good. I get to take credit for that. That's exactly. What's great about that is the fact that that Winnipeg offensive line picked up a really good stunt by Alondra Johnson coming in to allow McManus time to be able to turn and throw to that big target. That's a long drink of water right there.
Toss to Richardson. Richardson cuts back. Oh, Greg Knox was able to prevent Richardson from going all the way. A fine play by the rookie safety as Greg Knox prevented Richardson from getting to the end zone. He was the only man who could stop him, and Knox was injured on the play. It's a 21-yard gain for Richardson.
Great play. One of the first times that we've seen an outside rushing play, and again, Richardson showing tremendous speed as he came outside, makes the cut, gets back inside, and then it's the burst. He cuts the jet zone, runs by Anthony, and the end of the play, just at the last minute, you can see that Knox is able to get a handout, trips him up, and we couldn't exactly see what the injury happened. He just hit his knee or hit his ankle on the turf. He's up walking around. Hopefully he's going to be good. This is his 4th game as a starter in the safety, and Wally Bona has been tremendously pleased with the effort that he's been giving.
A draft choice out of Wilfrid Laurier. Greg Knox, as Dan said, has been playing safety for the last 4 games, and he prevented a Richardson touchdown. 1st and 10, Winnipeg. Draw play with Richardson. The initial contact was made by, I believe it was Hasselback. Yes, it was. Number 95 made the initial contact with him, and then Alondra Johnson finished the job. Hasselback is quite an interesting story, Dan. Here's a man who can speak 7 different languages. You and I have problems with one.
I have trouble with the one. He speaks Swahili. He is fluent in German and French. He is an amazing individual. Not only to say, a great football player.
Halfin in the end zone, unable to hang on, and it may have been because Kenton Leonard got a hand up. and might have either hit the arm of Alphen or knocked the ball away. But Kenton Leonard has been playing very well this year for the Stampeders.
Great matchup right there. You've got Alphen, a really competent receiver, and probably against the #1 defender of the Calgary Stampeders in the secondary, Kenton Leonard, who's done just a tremendous job. It's tough up there in the trenches where he gets down there. There's pushing and shoving. Those Hogs are working really tough in there. And again, those are very important that offensive line takes a lot of pride to give Danny McManus. And he got a fake.
Richardson taking the toss, but it isn't going to work. Westwood lined up in field goal formation, and Cameron tossed the ball in the reverse to Richardson, but Calgary was ready for it. Winnipeg attempted a little deception on 3rd down, but it didn't work, Dan.
Richardson on the left part of your screen. Cameron's the holder. The snap will go, and then he's going to come around, and he's just going to toss it back to him and see what we can do as far as trying to pick up a first down and catch Calgary off guards. But Calgary's not going to have anything to do with it. Good pursuit. Shuts down the fake.
Sapunjas unable to hang on to the throw. He had Paul Randolph, the linebacker, all over him. Sapunjas is looking for a 100-yard receiving game. He's got 97. Penalty flag on the play. Sapunjas with 97 yards. He had 175 yards against BC on July the 23rd, his most productive game this year. As a matter of fact, the most productive game of his career.
Penalty flag on there. Objectionable conduct against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Right at the end of the half, when Flutie ran the ball and went down and touched down, James West came over. He and Sapunjas got into it. Words were exchanged. Pushes took place out there, and I think it's picked up right from the end of the half.
Coaches, however, get upset with penalties after the play is whistled dead, don't they? The throw intended for Bland. And then Rod Hill is forced out of bounds by Sapunjas. Dan, it almost looked as though that ball hung up a little in the wind.
It really did. I can't understand, because he is throwing it with the wind. It should have been sailing out there on a frozen rope, and it could be frozen today. But he had plenty of time to throw the ball. Hill made a great break on the ball, was able to pick it up, didn't get much of the return, but the main thing is that they have possession.
Well, we saw James West and Doug Flutie involved in a bit of a skirmish. That may have been a carryover from the previous play.
Well, they've had words right at the end of the half. Doug Flutie's got plenty of time to throw the ball. Mike Gray comes from the outside, and it lost. It's kind of an over-under route, and Hill does a terrific job of picking the ball up.
So Winnipeg gets it back, hand off to Richardson. Richardson breaks into open field. Big first down to the Calgary 35. He was tackled by Watson, but not before he ran for 24 yards.
This is patented Winnipeg rushing. Very aggressive. You've got Chris Walby coming out there at 6'7", 300 pounds. Pulling from the right side tackle, pulling out, kicking out on Will Johnson, and then Richardson running in behind him. That is a terrific kind of escort to have around the corner.
Richardson will try again, but this time there are 4 Calgary defenders to bring him down. Tim Cofield was one of them. Junior Thurman also came up from his corner position.
When you're not doing anything up front as far as counteraction to hold that Calgary defensive line, when you just run a straight toss play like that and all the defenders can read it quite easily, then you're running right into the teeth of Calgary's defense. That's their team speed. They're not going to allow you to get outside.
8:11 remaining in the third quarter. 2nd and 9, Winnipeg. Fake inside to Richardson. McManus throwing for Alphen, incomplete. And again, the throw was just a little high, and even though Alphen is also a big target, like Crefo, he couldn't haul in the Danny McManus throw. Alphen, after leaving Ottawa, went to New Orleans and just recently came to Winnipeg from Dallas, and he has signed a 4-year contract with the Bombers.
Had McManus had it just a little bit more time, he tried to force it into Alphen with 2 Calgary defenders standing there. Thompson, number 81, was standing in the middle of the end zone all by himself. McManus just did not have time to get his vision and get his sight downfield.
This will be a tough 41-yard field goal attempt for Westwood. Look at the ball hang up, and it's wide. Smith in the end zone is going to concede a single point. So with 7:38 remaining in the third quarter, it's now a 5-point game. At halftime, we saw Bruce Covington and the escort he was provided with from the airport to Winnipeg Stadium. He's quite a character, and he was involved in some shenanigans by the Stampeders earlier this year. In their visit to Lansdowne Park in Ottawa, on his birthday, his teammates taped him upside down to one of the goalposts. Sideline pattern to Sapunjas, and Sapunjas will go over the 100-yard receiving mark, taking the ball up to the 49-yard line. There are some hardy fans at Winnipeg Stadium this afternoon, as we saw during the Grey Cup game last November.
There are hardy people in Winnipeg, period. These are some tough crowds out here. I think he's been here since the Grey Cup. I don't think he's been able to move.
Crawford on the sidelines thought that ball was coming right into his hands, but Rod Hill knocked it away. Rod Hill does quite a job of defending on those sidelines. He plays in an unusual fashion. He gets his back to the sideline all the time.
Puts his back and his buns to the sideline, takes away the outside of that receiver, and what it does, it tells him that I'm only going to give you one way to go, and that's inside. And if I know that you're going to go inside, boom, there, see? And then he knows that he can react to the play a lot faster. Rather than getting head up with the guy, you give him a two-way go where he can go to either side. It makes you think. And as Rod knows that he's only going to go one way, then he knows he has to accelerate in that direction.
Rod Hill defending against Crawford, knocking it down, forcing the Calgary Stampeders to punt. He's quite a character.
Well, we got to talk to him yesterday at the press conference as you walk by. You and him are obviously good friends, but he is a tremendous character, and he's a great compliment, not only as a person and a community service guy to Winnipeg, but as a cornerback.
Third down punt by Martino. Pierce lets it bounce. Thompson can't find it. Who finally gets the ball? Winnipeg is fortunate to recover. Paul Clatney was down on Larry Thompson, and Thompson was able to find the football after a 52-yard punt by Martino. Well, let's review the scoring in the game. A first quarter field goal by Mark McLaughlin made it 3-0. That was from 32 yards out. Then a 20-yard touchdown pass to Andy McVeigh made it 11-0 Calgary. Troy Westwood hit on a 53-yard field goal try to reduce the deficit to 8 points. And McLaughlin made it 14-3 with a 12-yard field goal. Martino conceded a safety touch. And Winnipeg has picked up a single and a field goal since then. Richardson, the ball carrier. Cofield made the tackle. A 28-yard field goal by Westwood before the second quarter ended gave us a halftime score of 14-8. And then a wide field goal try by Westwood against the wind in the third quarter has cut the margin to 5 points. 6 minutes, the time remaining in the third quarter. This is where Calgary wants to come up with a big defensive play. And they, if they force Winnipeg to punt, should get the ball back in great field position. McManus is going to be called for throwing it away with Will Johnson all over him.
Will Johnson right in his face. Will just made a great play coming off the line, exploded off the line of scrimmage.
Winnipeg number 14.
Got a hold of McManus very early. McManus didn't have any chance at all, and there was no Winnipeg receiver anywhere near dumping that ball off.
Well, Will Johnson was all over Sammy Garza last week. McManus now knows how Garza felt.
Sprinting out to the right, they was just looked like a sieve, a leaking of those Calgary defenders getting up front. Nobody picked up Will Johnson. He was unblocked, got in McManus' face early from the outside, forced him to do that. That was the big play defensively that you had just mentioned earlier, Don.
Well, I'm going to let you be a coach again, Dan. In this situation, we saw Calgary concede a safety touch. If you were Urban Bowman, would you concede too?
Well, you're looking at right now that you're 2 points down. You might as well give them 16 points, make it 16-9. It's still going to take that. In that case, you still need a converted touchdown to at least tie or to win this game. If this the other way that you're going to try to kick the ball, they're taking the time count violation. this way that you're going to kick the ball, they're going to pick up possibly 6 points for sure. You know.
Well, look where the returners are standing. They're only at the 35-yard line.
Excellent field position, and Doug Flutie, you don't want to give him that kind of field. It's not even safe when you've got Doug Flutie at the 10-yard line at the other end of the field.
Well, let's see what decision Urban Bowman has made. Cameron was looking downfield, and Cameron goes down in the end zone. Urban Bowman may have suggested that if the pass was there, throw it, but otherwise concede 2, and Cameron did concede the 2 points. Mark?
Well, Don, as we told you at the half, a ton of Bruce Coverton's friends have come here to mark his CFL debut as he plays offensive tackle for the Calgary Stampeders. This is Curtis Starkel, the driver of that move bus that you saw at the half. Curtis, you guys must be good friends to come out in this weather to watch an offensive lineman.
Oh, yeah, it's unbelievable weather, but we're having a great time. It's a great sport. It's the way football should be played in hard, cold conditions.
Now, what do? Do you watch the tuna or do you watch the ball?
We watch the offensive line. We watch the tuna. We make sure we evaluate them after every game.
Okay, well, Stage Ryan, thanks for joining us here. Don?
All right, thanks.
Well, those fans arrived at the park today in the move bus.
Only an offensive lineman can get away. Look, take a look at this thing. Isn't this amazing?
The upper deck is all set up for a party.
They had it out there. They had the tailgate. They had the umbrellas going, the picnic, the barbecue. It's a magnificent thing.
Troy Westwood kicking off for Winnipeg, and he drives it deep. Smith goes back to the 15-yard line. There's an opening up the middle, and then Smith has it closed off as he got to the 39-yard line by Brendan Rogers. 5:11 is the time remaining in the third quarter. A 59-yard kickoff by Troy Westwood. The left footer has got a strong leg. Pee Wee Smith is limping a little on that return. You know, it's interesting. Edmonton has the Gizmo. Calgary has Pee Wee. In Hamilton, they've got Earl the Pearl. Winnipeg hasn't been able to find anybody to return punts. The last time they had an effective punt returner was James Jefferson, who played with Winnipeg from 1986 to 88. Flutie's pass, low, intended for Crawford. It will be 2nd and 10. There he is, the big tuna, and Wally Buono was saying he has made tremendous improvements since the start of the season. He's getting better every week and could be a contender for outstanding rookie.
6'5", 295. He's got all the physical abilities. Now he's just got to work on getting his mental preparation stronger.
Lorenza Baker stops Doug Flutie from picking up a first down. Flutie is the leading rusher on the Calgary roster. He ranks as the number 4 rusher in the CFL, but he was unable to escape the grasp of Lorenza Baker.
Defensively, this Winnipeg team is charged up. They're pumped in what they did there in a case in the sense that they shut down the Calgary offense on the 1st and 10 situations the past 2 series and create and put Doug Flutie. If you want him in anything, you want him in 2nd and long, not 2nd and 2, 2nd and 3, where he's got a whole repertoire of plays to play.
Ball was dropped by Martino. It is kicked and picked up by Randolph, and Winnipeg takes over. They will have it 1st and 10 at the Calgary 41-yard line. Tony Martino was kicking with the wind, but then on the exchange from center, the wind seemed to affect the flight of the ball.
You can take a look at this. This ball travels the path right through here. It makes Martino move a little bit to his left. It's still not a bad snap, but he has to show some athletic ability. The ball hits him right around in the waistline. Doesn't make a good effort to try to retrieve the ball. Turns in a big turnover for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
Back to the live action. Richardson cuts back to the middle. He initially tried to go wide behind Chris Walby, but Will Johnson prevented him from getting to the outside.
This has to be a very positive thing here. Take a look at this score in the 4th quarter. The BC Lions 23-17 over the Ottawa Rough Riders. That's a big game for the BC Lions and the first game for owner Bill Comrie.
A 2-game road trip to Eastern Canada for the Lions. Their next encounter is against the Hamilton Ticats. McManus looking for Alphen. Kenton Leonard defended against him. Well, the Calgary defensive unit came up with a big play when they had to. Kenton Leonard is another interesting story with the Stampeders, a diabetic. You know, when you talk about athletes who have had that illness, I guess Bobby Clark is the most recognizable. He played all those years with Philadelphia. But Kenton Leonard works very hard for the Diabetic Association in Calgary.
Does a tremendous job for that society there in Calgary, and is a tremendous compliment to the community down there, and also to show the young people that just because you do have an affliction like that, that it's not going to prevent you from in being involved in competition and sports.
A wide field goal attempt by Troy Westwood goes for a single point with 3:10 remaining, 16-10. Well, 20 years ago, actually on Tuesday, the 28th, when Paul Richardson fired the shot heard round the world, celebrating the Canada-Russia Hockey Series with Summit on Ice. A trip back and a look today at the legendary Hockey Series and its stars. Game 3 of that series was played across the street at the Winnipeg Arena. It wound up in a 4-4 tie. Penalty flag as Mitchell carries up to the 37-yard line. And of course, Summit on Ice will be seen tonight on CBC television at 8 local time. I guess down in Louisiana, you didn't see many hockey games.
Well, not so much in Louisiana, too, and definitely...
Calgary number 54. First down repeated.
Coming from North Carolina, again, I do remember something called the Charlotte Checkers and the Greensboro Generals, but that's about it. I had an occasion the other day with my son. He's skating in hockey. He said, Dad, you got to come and help me. I got to show you some new moves. I said, Michael, I love you so much. I don't want to embarrass you because I'll be the only father out there with a lawn chair in front of me.
First and 20. Flutie side-arming it for Alan Pitts. Incomplete. Pitts almost came up with a big catch, but Kyle Hall came over to help out Bobby Evans.
Two things. It's a big choice for the safety here. Pitts is running down the seam. He's wide open to a point, but the safety's sitting there. Now you either got to take the shot on Pitts, as you see right there, or make a play for the ball. You got a chance for the interception. Play the ball, not so much the man.
Second and 20, Calgary. 2:22 remaining in the third quarter. Flutie is being chased by Randolph. He goes the other way and is dropped for a loss. Bobby Evans came flying up from his inside halfback position after Randolph forced Flutie to reverse his field.
You don't know, people looking out there, what a compliment that is for Bobby Evans to be able to make that kind of open field tackle on a Doug Flutie, wide open in full flight, coming up and being able to tackle him for a loss is absolutely terrific.
Loss of 3, third and 23, and Martino's third down punt, fielded by James. James has 4.38 speed, but the Calgary Stampeders aren't about to let him get to the outside as Hall restricted his return to 10 yards after a 51-yard Martino punt.
Well, you never get a chance to see that 4.38 speed turn because I don't think he's been able to shift it in gears. He catches the ball, he's trying to pick and choose, and his feet are kind of pitter-patter, slow tapping back and forth, and he's not really striding it, making a cut and slashing moves of trying to get that ball up the field. He's kind of dancing too much, trying to pick his way.
1:35 remaining in the third quarter. Winnipeg, the 7th worst offensive production in the CFL, 351 yards per game, and today they have not matched that production. Calgary has the best average yardage per game at 461. Warren Hudson carries up close to a first down, stopped by Kent Warnock.
Good success that they're having now. McManus is able to run the ball against the Calgary defense, causing them to sit in there and play the play-action passes a little bit. And when he does run the play-action, it buys him a little more time.
Hudson again, he gets the first down. Winnipeg 6 times this year has had less than 300 yards offense per game. So you understand how important the defensive aspect has been to the Blue Bombers.
And it's a great thing. This team has complemented each other very, very well. Again, in this one, when the offense was sputtering early in the game, the defense came on, took charge, took control, kept Flutie off the board, and turned the ball back over to Garza and McManus as many times as they possibly could.
Richardson gets a block. He gets another first down. And just 10 seconds remain in the third quarter. Well, Urban Bowman, I think after this game will say that he got the performance in the third quarter he wanted out of his defensive unit.
David Black, Chris Walby leading out there. Richardson just running. Now, this is a great asset for that Calgary offense. I mean, the Winnipeg offense, in the sense that they are being successful running the ball. And they are just getting up there. It is one-on-one, smash mouth, get tough after it, make something happen, and they're having success.
Scott Campbell with a touchdown run for Ottawa. They now lead BC. Richardson breaks into open field. And Knox makes the tackle down at the 17-yard line. That should be the final play of the third quarter. I talked about the job the defense has done. The offense has also been able to move the ball in this third quarter. How many yards for Richardson? Mike Richardson today has bounced back to the form he displayed a few weeks back in his debut as a Blue Bomber when he had 197 yards against the Hamilton Ticats.
Certainly builds up the confidence not only in that running back there, but also in that offensive line, that they are having the success of moving at the point of attack, moving that Calgary front seven off the ball.
Richardson trying to get to the outside, but he's going to be thrown for a loss, and the man who made the contact with him was Will Johnson. Mark?
Well, Don, Doug Flutie is preparing to face this ferocious north wind, warming up here behind the Calgary bench with Alan Pitts, and he's having a lot of difficulty getting his passes to spiral. This wind is so strong, and it is so cold. You can see him with the hand warmers jumping, trying to stay warm as he gets set for the final quarter of this game.
Flutie was unable to put the ball in the end zone with the wind. Now he has to operate against it. Winnipeg with the wind, and Richardson drives inside the 15-yard line, and this will set up a field goal attempt by Troy Westwood. Statistically, the Calgary Stampeders have a slight edge, 223 net yards to 192 for Winnipeg. But Winnipeg has been able to run the football. This is something that Urban Bowman felt they could do, obviously studying the game films and the success that Edmonton had on Labor Day. Troy Westwood's field goal attempt from 21 yards out. It's good. And it's a 16-13 football game. Just one touchdown so far in the game. That was by Andy McVeigh.
Going back to the other side in the third quarter, that the Winnipeg defense did a great job of keeping Calgary off the board, only allowing it 2 points. That they, of their own accord, gave up the safety to give them that 2 points. Terrific job. Now it's up to McManus to be able to control this ball and be able to put some ball points on going with the win. Be patient, not try to go deep on the thing, pick and choose and pick apart this Calgary defense.
Mitchell picks up a couple of yards, and Michael Gray celebrates. Time of possession was so important for Winnipeg in the third quarter. In the first half, Calgary had a 6-minute and 8-second advantage. Now it's down to 1 minute and 26 seconds. As a player, the time of possession mean a great deal to you?
It certainly does, and a couple of things. As long as a guy like Doug Flutie keeps Calgary on the field, therefore McManus or Garza, anybody, doesn't have a chance to get on the field and score any points for you.
Well, Doug Flutie is going to head to the sidelines. The pass was intended for Bland, as Danny McManus will get another opportunity, and Martino will be kicking into that very strong wind. So Winnipeg should get the ball back in pretty good field position. And remember, early in the game, Troy Westwood kicked one from 53 yards. He had a 57-yarder deflected at the line of scrimmage, but anywhere near midfield, it's within Westwood's range.
You take a look at Martino. He has 2 Calgary defenders lined up behind him so that they are onside in case this short kick takes place. They are able to go down and recover the ball.
James brings the ball back to the 48, and that's where Winnipeg will scrimmage 1st and 10 after the 22-yard kick. Last week against Winnipeg, Calgary punter Tony Martino had his best day as a professional, averaging 48.2 yards per kick. He unloaded a booming 82-yard punt, but kicking against this wind today, he has had problems. His average just over 35 yards. 1st and 10, Winnipeg. Fake inside, pass out into the flat. It was intended for Hudson, incomplete, and again Kenton Leonard did a fine job of defending.
Excellent coverage that time. Danny just read that. Danny McManus ran it quickly, trying to dump the ball off to Hudson, but Kenton Leonard is all over top of Hudson. Maybe the time that McManus is trying to go to the first read, he should take a look and see that Kenton is there, and at that point go back to his second read, because that is not a mismatch. That's not a kind of pass that you would like to throw.
2nd and 10, Winnipeg. 11:54 remaining in the game. Calgary in front by 3 points. Grifo was the man that McManus was looking for, and Errol Tucker was ready to knock it away had the pass been on target, but it was behind Grifo. So Winnipeg will send out the punting unit.
Grifo makes the move down inside. The thing that you don't see is that Watson, the halfback, coming from his weak side, was right up in Danny McManus' face, forced him to throw that ball a lot sooner than he really wanted to.
Winnipeg's first punt in the second half, and Cameron had to hurry it. Crawford fields it down at the 25-yard line. Dwayne Ford came through very quickly and almost got a piece of Bob Cameron's punt. It only traveled 37 yards. Next Sunday, a rematch, Saskatchewan and Toronto at Taylor Field in Regina. The Rough Riders trying to avenge last night's 39-32 loss to Dennis Meyer in his first game as head coach of the Argos. Pitts on the receiving end of the throw for a gain of 8, knocked down by Bobby Evans.
This is where Doug Flutie is so very, very good going into the win, as the fact that he is very methodical about moving the ball down the field, picking and choosing, take exactly what that Winnipeg defense will give him, not trying to force it deep, running the ball occasionally, mixing it up with some counter action, and being able to hit Pitts on short passes.
Pitts has a consecutive game pass-catching streak of now 39. McVay stopped right at the line of scrimmage. Second down, Winnipeg's defensive unit with a big play.
Calgary came off, looked very tentative, getting off the ball. Nobody really exploded once that snap took place. They took for granted that that was going to be an easy pickup of a first down, and the Winnipeg defense is having nothing to do with it. Filling all the gaps, just pursuing. James West is around the play. Hasatonis is there. It's just terrific as far as the explosion that this did, and it creates so much enthusiasm for that Winnipeg team.
Martino with a low driving kick. Larry Thompson lost the football and then got it back. He's having all sorts of difficulty this afternoon fielding the football on third down punts. 24,694 chilly and wet customers at Winnipeg Stadium watching the action this afternoon with 10:07 remaining in the fourth quarter. Winnipeg 1st and 10, the ball at the 50-yard line. Danny McManus and Sammy Garza have been able to put the ball into only 2 receivers' hands this afternoon, Grifo and Richardson. Richardson, the ball carrier, getting across midfield to the 53-yard line. Mark?
Well, Don, as the wind continues to pick up, we see the thermometer here, and the temperature has now fallen to 4 degrees Celsius, and the rain is turning to flurries here on a very, very chilly afternoon. As you mentioned, the diehard Winnipeg fans hanging in here. Some of the players now going to our TV lights in the sidelines on the Bomber bench to keep their hands warm.
Well, some of the Calgary Stampeders were saying the coldest conditions they ever encountered was during the Grey Cup game last year. Hudson with a big hole. Normally a blocking back, Warren Hudson burst through there like a sprinter.
The surprise attack, the first time we've seen Hudson carry the ball today. And in fact, as I said, Calgary's up on the line. Once you break the point of attack there, then it's freewheeling. Big Bob Moley's getting downfield, trying to make a block on somebody. He does a terrific job. Alonzo's very active in the middle. Boom, you get a shot there. Walby puts a hand out, just kind of gets him turned a bit. David Black does a great job of just neutralizing usually a very effective Alonzo Johnson.
Darryl Hall is the injured Calgary Stampeder, a 21-yard gain for Warren Hudson. We saw David Black make a key block at the line of scrimmage. He was on crutches on Tuesday of this week after spraining his left ankle last Sunday, and they had no reason to believe that he would be able to play. That's one of the reasons Nick Benjamin was added to the roster.
You're exactly right. He was on, I think it was crutches on Monday, he said. A cane on Tuesday. He missed Wednesday and Thursday, and there he is playing today. And that's the kind of thing you do. When you get to these kind of games and you're getting down the stretch, you have got to learn to play with pain. And there's a lot of players out there on both sides that are, and we'll get into it a little later.
A toss to Richardson. Richardson trying to follow the blocking of Molly. He cuts back inside the 15-yard line. And again, it was safety Greg Knox who prevented Mike Richardson from maybe going all the way. A 21-yard gain for Richardson.
One of the downsides about having a team defense with the kind of speed as Calgary does is that you have a tendency to over-pursue. 3 or 4 guys outside of the play, everybody's got the responsibility of turning it back in. But when Richardson makes the cut back in, there's nobody pursued. It looked like a row of ducks there that the Calgary Stampeder defense was in.
Winnipeg staying on the ground with Warren Hudson picking up a couple of yards. Rookie Vaughn Booker on the sidelines trying to utilize the television lights to keep his hands warm.
Book, I don't know if that's going to work. Either that, there's got to be some hot lights down there, or there's a fan underneath there or a heater underneath there somewhere.
Winnipeg has more than doubled its rushing average. And Richardson will try to add to the total. He'll be stopped short of a first down. Now decision time for Urban Bowman. You know what the fans want him to do.
They want him to go for it for here, but you can see Westwood is coming on for the field goal try. Not a very popular decision, but they have to realize there's 7:21 left. They kick the field goal here, they tie the score. Then if they can kick off good, shut down Doug Flutie, the Calgary offense, for 2 and out, make them kick the ball again. They're going to get in excellent field position.
Bowman is probably confident that his defense can shut the Calgary Stampeders down.
What's even more important is that I feel that the Winnipeg defense is confident that they can go out there and shut Doug Flutie. They found a human quality about him in this game.
So Troy Westwood ties the game, but there's a penalty flag on the play with 7:02 remaining. We'll sort it out for you when we come back. On Troy Westwood's successful field goal, there was a penalty flag. The initial call was that Winnipeg did not have an end on the line of scrimmage, but Winnipeg had shifted to an unbalanced line.
Exactly. Instead, they took one of the offensive guards on that side, Bob Moley, put him over on the right-hand side, gave him 5 guys on one side with an up back, and then the number on the end guy on the left-hand side was an eligible number, so the call was retracted.
Game tied at 16. Flutie's in trouble. Down he goes. For the sack, but he was forced into the defensive tackle, I believe, by James West.
James West and Von Brooker was there, the guy that got the initial hand on Doug Flutie. In most cases, a lot of times, somebody getting a sack is created by somebody else doing their job. As you can see, Booker coming from the right side of your screen, gets a hand on Flutie, spins him around.
5 sacks today for Winnipeg's defense. A fired up aggregation, encouraged by the fans, and Flutie's in trouble again. Flutie throwing deep down the sidelines. It's incomplete. It was intended for Alan Pitts, but Flutie had to do an awful lot of running before he found some breathing room and could wind up and throw.
Well, this goes right into Doug Flutie's game. He is a scrambler. He says, let the blitzes come. I'll get rid of them myself. I'll elude them, get away from them as he does. Great quick feet, great conditioned athlete. Throws the ball upfield, almost intercepted again. This is the big thing. The Winnipeg defense has come out, shut them 2 and out, and gives McManus another chance with the ball with 5:50 left.
Bruce Covington is the injured Calgary Stampeder. The offensive line of the Stampeders totally rebuilt from last year. The only holdover is Ken Moore, and he has shifted from left tackle to right tackle.
Wally said it was a necessity. Coach Bono talked about the fact that it was a necessity that they had to go with youth and speed and get rid of some of the guys that had been there for a long time. And he knew that it was going to be a little testy to begin with, but they had a chance to get some continuity together and get that offensive line performing. And this Covington has been just a great addition to the offensive line this year.
The Ottawa Rough Riders, as you saw, have fought from behind, and they defeated the BC Lions. So the Ottawa Rough Riders are back in a first-place tie with the Hamilton Tiger Cats. 5:53 remains in the game. Martino stands at the 15-yard line.
Right off to his right, you have 2 players that are onside in case the short kick happens. They can go down and recover again.
Matt Pierce grabs the ball, and there are penalty flags. It will probably be a no-yards call against Calgary. Only a 15-yard kick by Martino.
Matt Pierce has done some of the things right there to just redeem any of the bad plays he had made in the earlier first half and the previous game in Calgary as far as his fumbles are concerned. Able to feel that ball. Once that ball is kicked in the air.
Calgary number 3, first down.
Once that ball is kicked up in the air, the main thing is do not let it hit the ground. Field it at all costs on the fly, as Matt Pierce did then. Picked up the no yards penalty, puts Winnipeg in great field position.
Mark, you have to be careful when you go across the field. You could become airborne.
Kind of looks like Mary Poppins heading across there a bit, doesn't he?
Warren Hudson will pick up about 3 yards. You know, the last time that Calgary swept a season series with Winnipeg was way back in 1979. Last year, Winnipeg won both games 39-26, 28-15. And Wally Buono, as a head coach, has never won a football game at Winnipeg Stadium. He might say the elements have never favored him either. The toss to Richardson. He gets a block. He's got a first down. And there's a penalty flag holding against Winnipeg.
It may come back. That could be Warren Hudson, number 37.
4:47 remains in the game.
Holding, Winnipeg number 37.
Absolutely right, Dan. Warren Hudson, who has been doing a better job of picking up some of those down Calgary linemen in their pursuits of quarterback Danny McManus, is guilty of the holding call.
On that toss play, his responsibility is to lead out and either kick out the outside linebacker, which was Matt Finley, or if he goes inside, to block him down. Matt Finley did a great job of trying to get down and then coming back, and as he tried to get back upfield, Warren put the squeeze on him.
And off to Richardson again. Richardson breaks a couple of tackles down to the 25-yard line. And now Troy Westwood comes into the ball game to try and give Winnipeg the lead for the first time this afternoon. You know, there's a lot of pressure on Richardson coming into the Winnipeg lineup, replacing the man who had been the rushing leader in the CFL for the last 2 years, and he made such a spectacular debut, then struggled over his next 3 games, but today, 174 yards. A 33-yard field goal try by Troy Westwood. It's wide, but it goes through the end zone for a single point. So with 3:50 remaining, it's Winnipeg 17, Calgary 16. Winnipeg attempting to complete a sweep by Eastern teams over Western opponents this weekend. And you know, the last time, Dan, that 3 teams in the East finished with better than a 500 record was 19 years ago. Oh. An attempt at a center screen, and again, Flutie was feeling the heat.
Feeling the heat, but the main thing that he's so upset about is Michael Gray, as McVee comes up and he's going to set up the screen. He makes the block and then he sets up. Michael Gray's not going to have anything to do with it and actually knocks him down to the ground right as the pass is being thrown. Grabs him there. You can see he's got a hold on him at the left of your screen. And Doug Flutie wanted pass interference call on Michael Gray.
Stampeders have not converted a second down in the second half. Sapunjas made the catch. 3 minutes remaining in the ball game. Winnipeg leading 17-16. When we return, Calgary will be punting on 3rd down. At 2:59, pardon me, the time remaining. Winnipeg leading 17-16. David Sapunjas made the catch on the last play. He has 115 receiving yards now, but he was stopped short of the first down. And the Winnipeg defensive unit trying to get the fans, those that remain, involved in this game. Movement at the line of scrimmage. More penalty flags fly. As a matter of fact, it looked as though every official was throwing a piece of nylon into the fray.
Procedure, Calgary number 20.
As a linebacker, what would Flutie have done in a procedure violation?
Actually, I think if we can get another shot of it at some point, I think it was either Kenny Moore or Cafazzo on the right-hand side that made the first move. There it is right there. You can see just at the top of your screen, I think it's Kenny Moore that gets a little head lift up, and it's great. That's just, at this point, just a lack of concentration, lack of composure in that one particular moment.
But as a linebacker, do you watch the quarterback in a play like that?
Absolutely.
Flutie's pass, intercepted by Jason Jakovic.
What a super effort this youngster's made in his first starting role at halfback.
Do you think he's going to keep that football?
I don't think anybody can take that football away from him right now if they tried to. He comes in, the first time he ever blitzed from his halfback position, he gets a sack on Flutie. A lot of good heat up front by the Winnipeg defense front 7. Forces Flutie to throw the ball a little off balance. He lobs one up there. He's got Pitts deep. He just can't get enough oomph on it to get it down there to where Pitts is.
Well, obviously, the rain is blowing into one of our cameras, causing some condensation problems. Mike Richardson, the ball carrier, he'll pick up about 3 or 4 yards. Hasselback made the tackle.
Super situation right now for Danny McManus in the sense that this Winnipeg offense has had great success of running the ball. They need to run the ball to keep the clock running and to pick up first downs. Had they not been having that success earlier in the season, in this game, it would be very tough for Danny McManus to keep the drives alive, having to be able to throw the ball every time.
Richardson again. And he'll be close to a first down, driving to about the 45-yard line. Alondra Johnson made the tackle. And again, the fans imploring Coach Bowman to go for it on third down.
Even more so, that offensive line wants them to go for it. They think, listen, we have got these guys right in our back pocket right now. I can drive this fella off in front of me. Chris Walby wants to take a shot at it. Look for Richardson off the right side here behind Chris Walby and Black.
Urban Bowman felt very confident that Richardson would be able to run the football today. And indeed he has. But this is Warren Hudson for the first down. 1:52 is the time remaining. The Ottawa Rough Riders, with their win today, moving into a tie for first place with the Hamilton Ticats, both teams at 7-5. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers trying to stay within 2 points of the division leaders. The Bombers trying to even their record at 6-6. Calgary leads the West in the CFL at 8-3. Richardson can't get to the outside. Linebacker Alondra Johnson made sure of that.
There's no mystery about what Winnipeg is going to do. There's no mystery for the Calgary defense at this point. Again, it's just man against man. Who's better? Who's got more oomph and who's got more gumption to get out there and whip that guy in front of you, because you know that the Winnipeg Blue Bombers are just going to try to run this ball right down the Calgary's throat.
Richardson again. He loses the football, and Calgary has got it. Well, the Stampeders needed a break, and they got it. They will have, with 1:05 remaining, a last-ditch opportunity to pull it out.
Very innocent-looking play to Richardson off the right side. The toss play that he got earlier. Somebody from Calgary will get a replay on it, hopefully, and then he just got his hand in there and was able to rip it in. As McManus turns, he wheels, he throws, and that's Will Johnson coming from the backside. Will Johnson, the defensive end, was able to collapse all the way across, pursue down the line of scrimmage, and get his right hand on the ball, strip it out, create a situation for Doug Flutie.
Calgary's defensive unit has given the offense a chance to pull this one out. 1:05 remaining. And if anybody can do it, Doug Flutie can. To Alan Pitts, incomplete. Throwing into the wind, the ball just seems to hang a little.
It does hang. You just can't get the kind of zip on the ball, and with Doug Flutie, he normally throws a very soft ball, not with that much velocity on it anyway. Michael Gray is all over. This defensive front seven, every time they've been around Flutie, there's an extra push and an extra lip service that is going on out there to make it very, very competitive.
Calgary has only had 3 first downs this half. On second down, the pass was intended for Bland, incomplete. Something Winnipeg has done very effectively in the second half. Flutie is a bit of a sidearm thrower. They've been trying to close up the lanes on him.
Well, the thing that James West had talked about playing in the game before was the fact that what they wanted to do was contain him tightly into the middle of the pocket and make him have to throw up the field. And as you're throwing up the field, you're throwing into the height of some of those big guys up in front. So if you do have a little bit of a sidearm motion, you're going to get a chance to knock it down defensively.
56 seconds remaining. Flutie is under pressure. Pitts trying to come back, and he makes the catch for a first down. You saw the ball fluttering back towards the line of scrimmage, and what a good job Alan Pitts did of adjusting his route to come back and make the catch.
He did a terrific job. Flutie hung in there and just threw up a lame duck. That reminded me very close. We used to tell Tom Wilkerson he used to throw the option pass where the receivers had the option of catching it either end as it tumbled down for him.
Incomplete. Intended for Pitts again. It will be 2nd and 10 Calgary, 35 seconds remaining. In this half, Calgary has had 4 first downs, Winnipeg 10. It's been a defensive battle. You would probably enjoy this type of game.
I love this kind of game. This is great. This is great weather. This is great football. And it's really inspiring to see this time the Winnipeg defense came and at this point have played for 59 minutes. They got 35 seconds more to play to seal this victory.
Here comes Randolph, and then Flutie backs off and throws the screen to McVay. You could almost see Randolph realizing that he came in too easily, and he tried to adjust for the screen.
And that's the kind of thing the offensive linemen are going to make one little hit up in your face, allow those defensive guys to slide by, and then they slide out and get in front of McVay as a blocking crew in front. But again, the guy that made it really, really well was coming off the block of Rocco Romano, was James West, played off the block, was standing right there to make the tackle once McVay caught the ball.
When you were coming in the blitz and all of a sudden you found yourself coming through too clearly, too easily, you must have thought, uh-oh.
Well, actually that time I kind of thought I was too dumb to think that a lot of times. I just thought I'd made a great move, and I was really quick and I was really super until I realized, you know, I got the donkey tail printed on my butt.
But when a linebacker comes clean as Randolph did, he suddenly realized there was something happening behind him.
There is a reason that you are running in there wide open, and you have to be able to read that very quickly. Randolph was kind of got caught in no man's land where he was too far in to turn around and come back, so all he did was stay there and contain Flutie.
3rd and 9. Pitts makes the catch. He'll be very close to a first down. It will depend on the spot, but it looks as though he's got it.
Got it by about the length of the football, it looks like, Whit.
Flutie, during the timeout, ran over to the bench to confer with John Hufnagel, the offensive coordinator.
Absolutely nobody better in this stadium to confer with than John Hufnagel. He's thrown a lot of those passes right here.
21 seconds remaining. Flutie throws it up. It'll go way out of bounds. It almost looked as though that was a quarterback draw to start with.
That's exactly what it was. Winnipeg had all their defensive guys up on the line of scrimmage. Doug Flutie took 3 steps back. He's going to make the play to come back up. They had sealed it off, sealed every gap, forced him to come outside. All Doug did was rifle the ball up toward the stand so that he can line it up for another snap.
2nd and 10, 13 seconds remaining. The ball is at the Winnipeg 52-yard line. Winnipeg leading 17-16, 4 receivers to the right. Flutie rolls in that direction. Short of Alan Pitts. 6 seconds remaining. 3rd and 10. Well, Flutie, once in his past, has thrown a Hail Mary pass that has produced a touchdown. Can he do it again?
This Winnipeg defense should be in some kind of prevent here. They should be so deep off the line of scrimmage. Get a rush of the front 3. The linebacker should be 20 or 30 yards deep. Again, the secondary guys almost standing by the goal line, really. And make Calgary throw everything in front of you, then make the tackle, and then the game's over with. That's all you have to do. Do not get in a foot race.
Intended for Stampeders, it draws a penalty flag. Jason Jakovic bumped with him.
This could be offensive pass interference.
Judging by Flutie's reaction, it is.
And James, right at the end, as the punches ran, 3rd pass interference, Calgary number 20. Penalty is declined. The game is over.
So the Winnipeg Blue Bombers come from behind for a 17-16 victory. Wally Buono's team still remains in first place in the West, but Urban Bowman has moved to within 2 points of first place in the East.